Hello and welcome back to the British basketball scene, your home for news and interviews around the BBL. Before we get into the second interview here on this channel, I would just like to say a massive thank you for all the support that I got on the interview with Bristol Flyers captain Daniel Adozi. It was one of the best interviews I've ever conducted, and I'm so proud of that work, and thank you so much for supporting it so much. It was a phenomenal way to kickstart this channel, and what better way to carry on the momentum than with this second interview. What a second guest I do have on this channel. It is the one and only captain of the Sheffield Sharks, the man who's been all over the BBL for the past 12 years. It's the one and only legendary Mike Tuck. So I am joined with the legendary Mike Tuck, the captain of the Sheffield Sharks. Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here.
How have you been whilst in quarantine? Have you been coping with the lockdown?
Yeah, it's been fine for me. Just kind of laying low until all of this kind of blows over. Obviously, it was very sudden. We actually played our last game before it all hit at Worcester. So we played that game on the Friday. They canceled the league on the Sunday, or postponed the league on the Sunday, and then we went from practicing every day and playing games and being around the guys all the time to they all flew home. Everybody's locked in their house. So it was really strange to begin with, and a big adjustment. But like anything, you get used to it. You get into a routine, and I found different things. I started running and different challenges, and just to kind of keep you going. So it's been interesting, but I'm kind of getting sick of it now. We need some normality to return, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the same for everyone. I know that I'm itching to get back into an arena and start, feeling the basketball buzz again, like I'm sure many of us are. And I mean, with the news that the lockdown is soon to be eased up in the UK, and pubs and restaurants are soon to be opened, the news came out that the government aren't granting gyms and like sort of arenas to open up yet. Are you kind of disappointed that they're not allowing that to happen, or do you think it's that's the safest option?
Um, there's a couple different ways you could look at it, but for one, I mean, for me, I'm missing the weight room. And I'm missing being in a situation where I can walk onto a basketball court and get some shots up. I mean, just shooting around at the park isn't really doing it for me anymore. And the government's saying that, okay, a guy can go and get drunk at a pub and probably be, not being able to handle himself and touching things, and not, and being inebriated to do anything. And then whereas when you're sober at a gym, and you can be much more better with how you handle yourself. So it's kind of strange. At the same time, when you're at the gym, you're touching all types of equipment, you're sweating, you're letting off all types of things. So it's a tough one. And the government are trying to do the best they can, but they've never dealt with anything like this, and they don't really know what they're doing. So it's one step at a time. And I'm a kind of a positive guy, so I try and just look at the positives. And at least we'll be able to go to a restaurant and get some food, or something like that, and just kind of brings us one step back to normality. But I'm buzzing. I can't wait to get back in the gym.
Oh, absolutely. I think the sooner that the gyms are able to open, the sooner that our minds can be taken off the the uncertainty that is at the moment. A lot of people are struggling for jobs, and at least getting back into the gym, you kind of have that normality. You sort of have a routine there. So I just want to take it back to the early stages of where your basketball journey kind of went off. So you went to a Globetrotters game back in the mid '90s. What was so impressionable about that game that made you think, yeah, basketball's for me?
Yeah, I mean, to start off my career, like my dad, I was always the tallest kid in the class. You know, in the class picture, I was the kid standing at the side beside the teacher. Like, you know, I was that kid. So I think my dad kind of realized quite young that, you know, I would be perfect for basketball. My dad had played a little bit of basketball growing up, but he was more of a American football player. But so he kind of saw that, and he put me into basketball right away. And there was a couple of events during my childhood. One was going to a Globetrotters game and kind of seeing the flair and all the tricks that they were doing. And then the second one was there was the World Championships in 1994 in Toronto, and Team USA was there, Team Canada, and a bunch of other teams. And he took me down there, and we got to see Team USA. And this is with Shaq was on the team, Jordan was on the team, Barkley, like all of the big name guys, pretty much essentially the same team as a dream team, except plus or minus a couple of guys. And that's more so than the Globetrotters game. That's really what kind of sparked my interest. And then I was probably 9 or 10 years old when he took me down to my first house league, we call it in Canada. So like just kind of local league, local rep league. And I still remember walking in my first time. I never played before. And the coach of my team saw me walking over, and his eyes, as soon as he saw how tall I was, his eyes just like lit up. And I don't think I came off the floor the entire game. He played me the whole game. And that was it from there. I know I was hooked. I absolutely loved it. You know, and I would play all the time. My dad put up a hoop in our driveway, and, you know, I'd be out there all day in the summer. In the winter times, you know, in Canada, it snows, it gets super cold. I would be out there with my shovel. I'd be shoveling the driveway with my gloves on just so I could go and get shots up and while it was snowing. So I was hooked. And, you know, here we are, you know, 25 or 27, 28 years later, and I'm still hooked, and I'm still playing, and I still love the game.
Absolutely. I mean, when you do see those superhero like characters like Charles Barkley, like Shaquille O'Neal, you sort of do feel like, yeah, I want to be in the spotlight. I want to be there. And being from Canada, you know, you've got you know, we are the North. You know, Toronto Raptors. Was that your team growing up? You know, was that, you know, the players that you idolized from that Toronto team?
Yeah, I mean, so they did the franchise expansion in 1995. So growing up, there was no Raptors. So I was actually a Knicks fan growing up. Just I think it was just more because of geography. The Knicks were somewhat the closest team to Toronto. You know, New York, Toronto. And back then it was, you know, the big Knicks versus the Bulls rivalry. They kept meeting in the playoffs, and you know, everyone loved Michael Jordan, but I kind of was like the anti guy. I wanted to go for the underdog, so I was always rooting for the Knicks. And then once we found out that they were doing the expansion, and Vancouver and Toronto were both getting teams, super excited. You know, obviously being from Toronto, born and raised, and the Raptors came through, and you know, ever since then I'm diehard Raptors fan. Just love them. You know, went to a few games their first season down when they were still playing in the Sky Dome, the baseball arena, and then finally they moved over to the Air Canada Center, which is now the Scotiabank Center. And yeah, it's been an up and down battle with them, but obviously, you know, last year was the icing on the cake after being a fan for 25 years. Watching them you know, get their rings, raise that banner was great for me. And, you know, I think just watching their whole evolution as an organization, they've just been, you know, a treat to watch, and you know, trendsetters in so many ways. And, you know, obviously they've had their down moments, but nothing was sweeter than last year and Kawhi bringing the championship to Toronto.
Oh, absolutely. And Toronto have been, you know, one of the kind of the one of the flashiest teams in the NBA as well. You've got, you know, you've had highlight reel dunks from Vince Carter in the dunk contest, and also probably I would argue one of the best jerseys of NBA history, the purple one with the dinosaur on the front. That, I think that jersey's amazing.
Yeah. It was funny because back then everyone used to kind of make fun of it around the league. And I was actually on a podcast with Tracy Murray, who was one of the standout players for the Raptors in those early days. And he was saying that everyone used to make fun of him. They used to call him Barney and all that kind of thing. And now with all the retrofits and everything, everybody's loving those jerseys. They're so cool. But yeah, like, and Vince, just that whole team and that whole kind of phenomenon that came through, they just had such a big impact on the city and on the country of Canada as well. You know, it was just traditionally such a hockey country, and basketball is now just taken over. It's so huge in Canada now. And you know, me as a kid, I was in high school when Vince was winning the dunk comp and doing all those dunks, and it was just, you know, huge influence on me as a young player.
I think one of the best athletes of the generation of early 2000s basketball as well with Vince Carter. You also have a background in like track and field and being an athlete yourself. Do you think that gave you an advantage on the court when it came to game time and playing when you were in like high school and middle school and stuff like that?
100%. I think like track was the first kind of sport that I ever did when I was a kid. I did 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter, high jump, long jump, and all those are valuable skills in most sports, and especially in basketball. Basketball, you were strictly running and jumping, so learning how to do those, and I was very fortunate to have some really good teachers early on that were correcting my form and stuff like that. Moving on into high school, I played basketball and volleyball, and our volleyball coach was a woman named Mary Krause, who actually played for the Canadian national women's team volleyball team. And she was just insane in terms of work ethic and getting us prepared, and then also training us how to jump. So learning how to jump in volleyball, there's a strict mechanics to it and everything. And that carried over into basketball as well. Like that really helped me develop. And because I was playing both at the same time at that age, it helped me develop a lot quicker than I think a lot of other kids that didn't have access to that.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely an important skill to have, especially with your advanced height. As you say, you're always the tallest in your class and stuff like that. I mean, your advanced skills as well. Playing basketball throughout your entire life at that point, pretty much. You were then offered a scholarship to go and play at Loyola University. Tell me what that meant to you, getting that scholarship.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. It was my dream to get a Division I scholarship. Watching March Madness and all those kind of teams play growing up, it's something that you kind of idolize. Coming out of high school, I had a couple of Division II offers, but I didn't want to hold myself, down to that level. I wanted to get that Division I level. So when I finally got the offer to go through to Loyola, went down on an official visit to the school. And the campus down there in Baltimore, Maryland, it's absolutely incredible. It's like one of the most beautiful campuses, I would say, on the East Coast. And I fell in love right away. The coaching staff were great to me. The guys on the team were great to me, and they said I would get playing time right away if I came, and I did. So it was a great decision to end up there. I wouldn't have gone anywhere else.
Definitely, and you did make a big impact when you went there, but shortly you had a bit of a setback. You did, in fact, break your ankle. How was it? How important was it to get the support from your peers at the time when you did, in fact, go down with the injury?
I didn't actually break my ankle, but I tore some ligaments in my ankle. It was a pretty big setback at the time. I think it was my junior year. And I had been a starter. I was, playing really well. And then just it kind of happened and took me out of the loop. And I think I was out for about 10 weeks, something like that. I had to wear one of those, big walking boots. And that was a tough time, as a young player, learning how to deal with that. I had never really had a major injury before that. So learning how to sit out, be on the sideline, kind of become a cheerleader was a different gig for me. But I think all in all, it made me stronger. It kind of humbled me. And when I did eventually come back, I was coming off the bench and being very productive. And I finished that season in our conference awards. I won 6th Man of the Year awards. So I think it was a good thing that happened. Everything kind of happens for a reason, and it kind of it made me realize that you don't have to be the starter every time. You don't have to be that guy. You can make an impact coming off the bench. You can make an impact with whatever minutes you have. So I think that it was a good thing for me in the long run.
Did you, in fact, feel good the fact that you did go on to win Sixth Man of the Year, and show that your hard work did, in fact, like it paid off big time, especially with you playing reduced minutes and, as you say, having to take that that backseat role a bit? Did it really exemplify the hard work that you put in over the time of your rehab?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the recognition, right? Whenever you're doing something, whenever you're working towards a goal or whatever, and you get recognized for that, it's a big accomplishment. And I have to take my hat off to Jimmy Patsos, my coach in college. Um, Amazing guy, wild guy, amazing guy though. He's like my big older crazy brother. But I know that he had a lot of influence on that, and I know that he was the one who put my name forward for that. So that meant a lot to me as well, because I know without him I wouldn't have got that. So it was great to get that award. And like I said, I think it was getting that was one of those moments in my career that kind of helped define me as a player and as a person, and helped make me who I am today.
Exactly. And then after your time in university, we've previously discussed that you have been a lifelong Toronto Raptors fan. You were actually invited to a pre-draft workout with the Raptors. Is that correct? So, how did you feel when you got that offer to go and play and work out with the Raptors?
It was unreal. It was I got the call from Courtney Charles, who at the time was head of player development, and it wasn't like they were super scouting me, but they always call up local guys to come to some of their workouts to fill spots and just get a look at see what the guys around the area are doing. So for me to get that call, it was really out of the blue. I didn't know how they got my number or whatever, but got invited to this workout. I showed up that year. In my workout there was Dante Green, who went to Syracuse and then went on and played. He played all over the place. And then Roy Hibbert, who played at Georgetown and ended up playing for the Pacers for quite a few years. And then a handful of other guys, Kyle Landry, who is a Canadian guy, played in the Canadian national team, played in Russia. But it was an honor, and it was a great thing, but it was also an eye opener seeing at what level those guys were playing. And I had been always like a power forward kind of big player in my league where I came from, playing in a mid-major Division I college, and then going there, I was the shortest player at the workout. So we ended up playing like 3-on-3 throughout the workout, and I'm like, usually I'm a big, and now here I am playing point guard, bringing the ball up the floor. So for me, it was just like, ooh, this is an eye opener. But ended up having a great workout there. I shot the ball really well during our shooting drills, and I caught the eye of Leo Routens at the time, who was on the sidelines. Leo Routens, who is now a Toronto Raptors commentator. At the time he was they were just making him head coach of Team Canada. So he pulls me over right after the workout, and he said, "Who are you? How come we don't know who you are?" And then he said, "We have a Team Canada development camp going on right now, and I want you to go there." So I literally grabbed my stuff from the Toronto Raptors workout, and then next thing you know, I'm in the Team Canada development camp. So that was really, really cool. I got to play with them for 2 summers. We played in a couple tournaments, traveled around a little bit, went to Spain for one of the tournaments. Never ended up making the senior men's team, but just that experience of seeing what it was like inside of a national team setup was amazing. And that first year, right after the workout, that was the beginning of my pro career as well. So that was a really cool time in my life and my career, and a big eye opener as well.
Yeah, and I mean, being picked to represent your country is definitely got to be something that's it fills you with pride, especially with Canada, that, as you say, is more renowned for, well, it was at the time renowned for hockey. Being a colder, the north of the state. So to be the start of the revolution up in Canada was kind of how proud did, I mean, not only did you feel, but also how proud did it make your family as well?
Oh, big time. They couldn't believe it. Like all these things like happened in very quick succession as well. Me graduating from university, and one of the first people in my family to do that, to the Raptors workout, to being called up to Team Canada, and then right after that to signing my first pro contract overseas. So that was such a cool time in my life, and definitely for my parents and the rest of my family, they were super proud. And yeah, and it's all led to here. So here I am in Sheffield all these years later. So it's been a wild ride.
Absolutely. And before you do make your way to Sheffield, as you say, you did spend some time abroad. What was it like, the jump up from your D1 level to playing in places like Cyprus, Luxembourg, and also France?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a level up, and you're when you're in college and university, you're playing with teenagers and young men, 21, 22-year olds, and that jump up, you're playing with grown men, and it's a completely different ball game. And I think at any level of basketball, and really any level of sport, there's a few factors that change, and especially in basketball. And one is size. The guys are bigger. Strength. Everybody is much more built up and developed, and speed is another one. Not only the speed of the players, you've got really fast guys, and where in college you might have one or two. Now every team has like 3 or 4 really fast guys, but also the speed and the pace of the ball. So the passing is going up. The passes are harder. The passes are faster. You have to get to your spots quicker. And then also the basketball IQ side. So running plays, being able to execute under pressure, executing plays when your coaches are screaming at you, and when there's fans just going nuts, and especially places like Cyprus where like they would be lighting flares off in the crowd. They had to stop games because they would be flicking lit cigarettes onto the floor. Like, it was absolutely insane. So I think the BBL fans have a ways to go to get to there, but yes, I mean, Cyprus, Luxembourg, France, all amazing experiences in their own right, and definitely helped me learn very quickly and develop from that, make that transition from the college to the professional game.
And I mean, as you say, you evolved into quite simply one of the a great basketball player, and you made an immediate impact when you came over to the UK and started playing with Sheffield, winning back-to-back BBL Cups. What did it mean to you for you to have that impact, and also at the same time win your first professional silverware?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably part of the reason why I'm still here, is because I had played on, in a few other countries, and we never really had much success, didn't win any silverware. And then when I came to Sheffield that first year, we won the cup, and from then on, I was hooked. And initially, it was one of those ones where I thought I was just going to sign a 1-year contract, because most guys coming over from Canada or America, coming to Europe, they usually just sign a one-off deal, and maybe you'll get lucky, maybe they'll ask you back, but in most cases, most guys just kind of bounce around and fling around. So when Sheffield offered me back for that second year, I was like, okay, here's an opportunity here. We won some silverware. I've seen the setup. They treated me good. The contract was good. So it was a no-brainer, and I said yes. And I had a couple other offers in Europe, and then also within the BBL, but I was just like, I think I'm going to go with Sheffield. And most guys will tell you, or most veteran guys will tell you that especially when you go to a team and at the same team for the second year, it's a hell of a lot easier than that first year, because you're usually the coaching staff is the same. There might be 1 or 2 of the guys that are the same. Everything's more familiar. You're in the same gym. You're practicing in the same gym. It's just a little bit lighter on your mental as well. So yeah, ended up having a better season in my second season, and although we didn't have most of the guys that from that first team that I won the silverware with weren't there on the second team. A couple of them were, but it was pretty much a different team. But we were stacked that second year as well. We had guys like Steve D'Agostino, Ryan Patton, Marcus Stout, Paul Williams. Atiba was still playing at that time, so we had like 6 or 7 guys, but everybody could go, and we were focused, and that was a great season. And then make it back to the cup again, and here's the situation that I've been in before, and Ryan Patton and Atiba had been in before, so that kind of that kind of rubbed off on the other guys, and D'Agostino just went off in that game. He had 8 threes. I think he finished with like 33 or 35 points. So, but I had like 18 points that game as well, and we had a solid team. Olu Balola came to the team that year. It was just it was a good foundation that year, and like I said, winning back to back. It just gets you hooked. Winning that silverware and being able to raise the trophy over your head, that's the ultimate goal in any sport, especially in basketball. So it was good. It was good. I got addicted, man.
I mean, as you would if you were that good at the sport as well. So, coming into the league, obviously you did win the back to back. What would you say that is your best accomplishment, or like the accomplishment that you're most proud of, or would you say that honor goes to another prize that you won whilst captain in Sheffield?
Definitely, it's got to be for me the 2016 playoff final. That was kind of an elusive one for us. In 2011, when we won the second year of when we won the back-to-back, we actually made it to the playoff final that year, and lost to the Mersey Tigers, who we had beaten in the cup. We beat them by 20 in the cup. They beat us by 7 in the final. And that was one of those ones that had always kind of escaped my grasp. So finally, when we made it all the way back to the playoff final in 2016, it was down at the London O2. We were playing against Leicester, who were like top of the league that year. We had finished like 4th, and we had kind of up and down season, so we were heavily underdogs. But just getting down there to London, getting into the arena, I remember the bus pulling in, and just everything just started clicking, and the vibe within all of our team was just kind of everybody was on the same page. We walked in, there was just this energy. And then when you walk out of that locker room into, the O2 Arena, which is essentially just like an NBA arena, like 19,000 seater, the vibe is just crazy. And I just had a good feeling from the second my foot stepped on that floor. I knew we were going to win. And I think that kind of carried over, and I think, rubbed off on all the other guys that yeah, okay, this is our time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I ended up getting MVP of the game. So that was the icing on top, and that was definitely my proudest moment in the BBL as a Shark.
Oh, definitely. Winning MVP, then you also have all these players in the league that automatically now look up to you, and you're like, oh, I am a really, you sort of get that validation for yourself as well, which is extremely important. How important is it for the young players of the Sheffield team to look up to you and come to you for advice, being the veteran of the team?
Yeah, it's funny because I was never. I did captain my high school team, and I did captain my university team, but I was never like a very vocal guy. I was more of a leader by example type of a guy. And then I think it was 2012, the Sharks asked me to be captain of the Sharks, which was a huge honor. To be honest, I wasn't really expecting it. So when they did ask me, it was a bit of a surprise, but obviously I took it with open arms. And it took me a few years to kind of I think it wasn't until my second or third year as captain to kind of realize that, okay, I can have a bigger impact on this team than what I'm having. Because most of the times I would just show up early. I would just work hard, and try and keep up guys, steer them in the right direction. But I think as time went on, and Coach Lyons and other guys on the team said, you got to be more vocal. Guys are listening to you. Guys listen to you. I always remember that Mike Cook came back for his second stint. So Mike Cook was a guy I played with my first year at the Sharks. We won MVP of the league that season. And then he came back for his second stint. We went out for dinner one night, and he's like, these guys, like, I don't think you realize how big of an impact you have. So ever since then, I've worked on trying to be more vocal and be more of a leader and be more of a guiding voice on the team, especially to the young guys coming in, and especially to the young North American pros that are coming in that don't really know what's going on. They and just kind of relate to them and be like, I was that guy at one time too. And then here's what my experience brought, and this is how this can help you. So I always try and shed some light on some stuff for the younger guys and kind of steer them in the right direction, and just be, a good leader, a good communicator, and spit some knowledge at them.
Exactly. As you mentioned, the other young impressionable guys from the States that come over. Some of them don't know what an Aldi shop is, or where to come
Yeah,
for shopping.
that's just half the battle there. Taking guys out for driving lessons, driving on the left side of the road. Yeah, like showing them where the shops are, what to shop for in the shop. Some of the guys have never cooked for themselves before, so it's just like it's a complete learning curve for certain guys, and not only the American guys, but I try. I'm always there for our young British guys as well. But for those guys, I relate to it because I was in their shoes at one point, and it's part of growing up. But like, there's so many little things that they don't think about or don't do. So yeah, it's funny because obviously England is very similar in language, but it is a European country, and it is much different from where I come from. Even for me being a Canadian, when I first moved down to the States, that was a big transition as well. Like, although very similar countries, it was a little bit different. So just little things you have to get used to.
Definitely, and with being the captain as well, you earn more opportunities as you get to more finals, and you also had another opportunity to represent another country. That was with the Team England in the Commonwealth Games in 2018. You played alongside guys like Daniel Adozi and Kofi Josephs. What was that experience like playing for Team England?
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, so my mom was born in England, so I was able to apply for my British passport. So I had played for England in a few exhibition matches, before cup finals and trophy finals and stuff like that. And then the lead up to the 2018 Gold Coast Commonwealth Games was coming up, and got the letter in the mail saying that you've been selected along with I think it was 70 other players, and would you be willing to attend? So sent the letter back like, hell yeah, I want to go. Australia, yes. And then from there it was on. There was two trials. Made it through the first trial, got through the second, and then ended up getting selected for the final team, which was absolutely amazing. It was tough because it was during the middle of the season, so I didn't want to leave my team. But we had just lost in the trophy final as well to Leicester, and I left literally the next week. So that was tough, but I think the sunshine down there in Brisbane made it a lot better once we got down to training camp. And it was just an unreal experience, similar to like the Team Canada setup stuff that I had been in. Just seeing the inner workings of how a national team kind of works, but also on the level where they put us in a hotel where all of Team England stayed. Everybody was in training camp while they were there. On the top floor, they had the physio with all the physio beds. They had ice baths outside on the balconies, overlooking the city of Brisbane. Our hotel room I'd stayed with Drew Lasker, my roomie Drew Lasker. Shout out to Drew. We had an amazing room that looked out over the whole city. And it was cool to be in there and see the vibe and talk to other athletes and see how they prepare for things and their mental process and lead up to things. And then also to be on this team with all these guys that we've battled against each other all these years in the BBL. And then all of a sudden we're just all teammates and like get to play with each other. So it was just, it was truly an experience I'll never forget. When it came to the games, we lost in the qualifier to make it to the end of the tournament. So obviously that was extremely disappointing. We had set our bar high and we didn't achieve our goals. But just to be there and be involved was a super special thing for me, and something that no one can ever take away from me, and something I'll never forget.
Definitely, and moving away from the international stage, there's been something something that I haven't quite got recently getting into, working within the BBL. And I think you might have seen me sometimes down at the University of Worcester Arena. And there's something that always confuses me about when you come to Worcester, and that is the rain of boos that shower you when your name is announced. Where did that stem from?
Well, I think you have to have been a British basketball fan for a long time to kind of know that. But there's a couple different gyms in the BBL that they don't like me just because I think all the abuse that I've given them over the year, but over the years. But Worcester specifically, I think it started back in, I think it was 2013-14, I want to say, when I think that was a really good year for Worcester. I think you guys won the trophy in the playoff final, maybe, I want to say. And you had guys like Alex Awumi, Zaire Taylor, Will Creekmore. I think you had the Williams brothers. And we had just, for some reason that year, and that was, 13-14, I had, that was with me and like BJ Holmes and Zach Hachette, Colin Singh, and guys like that, Demetrius, Olu. So for some reason, we had a big rivalry that year, and that's where it started. And there was a lot of trash talking, and there was a lot of hostile games at our place and then down at your place. And I think there was just a couple times where we had some close games down at your place. And I'm the type of guy, I wear my heart on my sleeve during the game sometimes, and I'll get fired up. And I think I was talking a little bit of trash to the crowd there. And I remember after that game specifically, they were booing me. And then the next game we came down there to play, before the game, I was getting hammered. Like, they were booing the hell out of me. So I kind of took it on and just being the pantomime villain and just like, come on, let's go. Like it was WWE or something like that. So now it's just been one of those things that stuck with me through my career, like for the last, 6 years or whatever it's been. Every time I go down to, it's always Worcester and Leicester, but especially Worcester, I get the boos from the crowd. But I think it's softened a little bit in the last year or two. I think they see the smile on my face, and it's only a game, Worcester. All right, it's only a game, baby. We're out there we're having fun. But no, I love it. Probably back a few years ago, that stuff really got me charged up. But now, when it happens now, I just can't help but laugh to think, how am I this WWE villain all of a sudden at Worcester? And all my teammates can't believe it either. But I always tell them it's the years of abuse that I've given all these Wolves fans for the last 12 years.
Definitely, and you do make the comparison to WWE. It's sort of the Wolves are Stone Cold, and you're Vince McMahon type thing.
I got to be the old guy.
I mean, the villain. You got to be the villain because the villains always get booed.
Yeah, I guess so. I got the gray hair to match McMahon, so I guess so.
I mean, you might have the sway to deliver his catchphrase of "You're fired" as the captain of the team as well. So
there you go. Yeah, we'll work on that.
So the recent news of you re-signing your contract with the Sheffield Sharks. First, I'd like to say congratulations on that feat. It's a big time to be. I mean, also very testing times for basketball players. But to know that you're going to be in Sheffield next year is something that's reassuring to all of the Sharks fans. How many years do you think you can keep delivering at this top level?
Well, that's something we talked about off air before, where there was a comment on Instagram saying you got to get to 15 years to match your jersey number. And I said, 15, woof. I don't know how many more preseasons I can go through. Making it to 12 has been a huge accomplishment for me. Back when like I said, when I first started, I didn't think I was going to be here longer than a year. And I'd never thought my pro career would go past 10 years, but obviously I ended up in a great situation with the Sharks, and they've kept having me back, and now I feel like I'm part of the fabric here. I was supposed to have my testimonial after last season. That wasn't necessarily going to be my retirement, because they just wanted to celebrate my 10 years with the club. But now I've pushed the testimonial to end of next year. I'm not giving any hints away. If I can keep going and I can keep being productive on the court, I'll keep playing. I've always talked to a lot of guys that have said, the real world will always be there. You should keep playing and as long as you can. and I'd like to do that. The Sharks have been great to me. I know there's probably been times where they've just been like, "Who's this old guy? Get him out of here!" But they've kept having me back. So we'll see. I'm taking it day by day right now. We're going to see how this season goes. I am going to play my testimonial game after next season. Coronavirus permitting, if there's not a second outbreak and we don't all get locked down again, which, fingers crossed we don't, but hopefully by, around this time next year, I will have been playing in my testimonial game. But getting to 12 is good. I feel like I could play, another one or two or potentially three more after this. The legs still feel good, and Atiba always tells me I'm the youngest 37-year-old he's ever seen. So, like I said, I'm taking it day by day right now. I still feel good. I'm ecstatic to be back with the club for another year. I cannot wait to get things started, especially after the way things ended last year. It just, basketball was taken away from us, and now, it feels like we get another shot at it. We get another chance to do it. So I'm really happy to be back, and very lucky and blessed and grateful to be in the situation that I'm in.
Definitely, and I'm sure it was extremely disappointing to have to postpone your testimonial and have that sort of special moment to crown your 10 years with the club, and pushing that back is definitely a setback that you just got to cope with it in these untesting times. Moving away from this could be related to basketball, or it could just be related to life itself. Who would you say has been the role model to help you through life the most?
Oof, that's a tough one. There's been a few people throughout my life that have had a huge influence on me. I think the first one would have to be my dad. He's just he was kind of like a foreman on a construction site. Just so the ultimate kind of project manager, very, very organized and tough blue collar worker type of guy. And he was the kind of guy who, he was up every day at 5 a.m. and down on the work site for, 6, 7 a.m. And he kind of instilled in me that, hard work pays off. And that, the harder you work, the luckier you're going to get. And that nothing is going to come to you if you don't go out there and take hold of it. So, and watching him, seeing his example and learning from him from a really young age was such a huge influence on me. The next guy I would have to say would have to be my high school basketball coach. There's a guy named George Kraus. He was the PE teacher at our high school. And I got very lucky because his son, Chris Kraus, who is now the head coach of Stonehill University, just outside Boston, his son was the same year as me. So George, being the PE teacher at Markham District High School, where I went to high school, he was looking to pair his son up with a team. So he was actually recruiting kids at quite a young age. And then we all went to high school together, and we had an amazing high school team, and we did really well. We won our region. We went to provincials. We won countless tournaments, and just learning from him that basketball was a vehicle, and he kind of taught me that. And I have a lot to give to George because he developed me. He made me the player I was at such a young age, and he was the one who kind of instilled that confidence in me and helped me develop from such a young age. And then, off I went to university in the States, and I think that was the third guy in my life that's had a huge impact on my life. It was, like we talked about before, my head coach, Jimmy Patsos. He's a nut. He's crazy, but you love him. And, he was one of those guys who would spit in your face. He would yell at you. He would berate you. But for some reason, I don't know how he did it. You would want to die for him. You would want to kill every other team. You would want to dive on every loose ball, all for him. He made you want to play hard. And he was the guy who kind of taught me that, yeah, basketball is a business as well. and that, you can, use this as a vehicle. You can go make money out of this. You have to invest your time into this, and this is the kind of the way you do it. So um, those three people in my life have been extremely influential, and I'm very lucky that they're all still here, and that I can pick up the phone anytime and give them a shout, and they're always there.
Well, it's been a wondrous career for you. So many ups and some downs, but the highlights for you will always stand out, no matter what. And I must say, thank you so much for joining me here on this interview. Do you have anything to plug, like social media or any projects in the works?
No, the biggest thing for me right now is the lead up to the testimonial game, which will be happening in late May or early June 2021, right after the BBL playoff final. I'm just waiting to confirm a date. It'll be played at Pond's Forge in Sheffield, and it'll be a celebration of my career. There'll be quite a few ex-Sharks there. There'll be quite a few guys who've played in the BBL there, and I'm hoping to get as many people from around the country at the game. It's a celebration of my career, but I want it to be a celebration of British basketball. I don't think that there's enough of these events during the summertime that bring the British basketball community together. So I'm hoping that this will be a really big one, a really good one, and hopefully a catalyst for something moving forward. So yeah, follow me on social media for updates. I will be announcing something on that really soon, as I have a date locked down. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mike Tuck 15, and then my Facebook page is just search for Mike Tuck and you'll find me. So yeah, keep an eye out, and it'll be out on the Sharks social media as well, at Sheffield Sharks, and hopefully we'll make it a great event.
Definitely, I can't wait till we get to celebrate the wondrous career of Mike Tuck. And as you say, there should be more to celebrate British basketball as well. It's not really seen as a national sport here in England, and it definitely should. That we should be making more connections with different fans and trying to and other people in the population trying to accept that basketball is a fantastic sport and try and sell out more arenas.
I completely agree. I think it's a sport that we should be shouting at. We should be shouting at the top of our lungs out, and that's why I want to try and get as many people as I can at this event. This is not strictly for Sheffield Sharks fans. If I can get a contingent of Worcester Wolves fans there booing the hell out of me, I'll take it. I would love to have that, and any other fans from around the country. I think basketball is a beautiful, beautiful game. It's the game that I fell in love with at a very young age, and I'm still in love with just as much, if not more now. And I think the rest of the country should hop on board and jump on this basketball bandwagon.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mike, for being on this interview. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel, and please go and follow all of Mike's social media pages in the description down below. And yeah, the one and only Mike Tuck.